Hello, everybody. Welcome wherever you are. You are listening to the latest episode of the Knights of Den podcast. I am Sayre Bedinger, and here with me, as always, on this brutal Tuesday after a loss, Brandon Keckler. Brandon, how you holding up after last night's game?
You know what? Devastated this morning. I was a bit depressed,
Yeah.
but I feel like I'm a phoenix ready to rise from the ashes, but it's time to assess the situation. It's time to figure out what happened and what we can do moving forward. I'm not as devastated as I was this morning. I really was. I was like kind of brokenhearted, but I feel like I'm ready, man. I feel like I've switched frequencies and I'm ready to plunge forward like a Royce Freeman freaking ground and pound.
Yeah. Well, if that's how you're feeling, you're only getting 8 carries tonight. So
No.
oh, just total burn right there. It's too fresh. Too fresh.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I have to say I haven't been that broken up about a loss in a couple years. So I know you'll remember the game. I'm pretty sure I've even mentioned it to you. The 2016 game at Denver against the Chiefs, where Trevor Siemian, that may have been. I know Siemian had a couple of 4-touchdown games, but I think that game was probably the best game of Trevor Siemian's Broncos career, because the Broncos were in such a position there. They were 7-3. They were playing at home, and Trevor just came out. I mean, he wasn't making all the plays, but he was making every necessary play. And so I was so broken up about that game because the Broncos took a lead in overtime in that game. And then they gave up another field goal on the other end, and then they had the ball back, and then they missed a field goal. So that's kind of one that I had. What's the past tense of dwelled? I had, yeah, dwelled,
had dwelled,
previously dwelled on. So, but yeah, last night was a similar feeling, man. It just sucked, and I think that's okay sometimes. You know, that the feeling after a game, it just flat out sucks. You know,
I feel like that third down that we converted at the beginning of that drive, like was like a false lead. Like I'm in the bar with like 5 Broncos fans. I'm like, that's right, believe in my life magic, baby. And like we're going, you know, like we're making it. We're gonna do this. Like I had that feeling, you know, where here we go. We're gonna overcome the odds and we're gonna do this. And then it was just meow, meow, meow.
It's the sound that they play at the stadium after incomplete passes.
Right.
Literally, it ended
without
on
the horse pass. Yeah. It shows it was in our favor.
Can you imagine if some Chiefs fan managed to get in there, and that would be the perfect time to just, all right, I'm willing to just take getting fired here. I'm going to pull the trigger on that sound bit.
Jeez.
That would have been so savage. But as it were, the game was just depressing, deflating. I don't know how many of you listening heard my 1-minute rant on the game. I just felt like Broncos Twitter did a good job of finding a lot of different ways to place blame last night.
Yeah.
My personal opinion, man, is just that, like, sometimes in a football game, like, it's okay to lose at, you know, having one play be the difference in the game. Like, you go back and forth in a game. You don't necessarily, I thought the defense played a great game for almost 60 full minutes. I mean, probably for 55 minutes, the defense played great. I think the offense did a good job of coming out, answering the bell when the Chiefs went up 10-3. It just felt like everything was kind of back and forth. It felt like a really good football game throughout. And then to take that 10-point lead into the fourth quarter, I mean, it felt like the Broncos did enough to win that game. And then obviously Patrick Mahomes took over the game. A couple of really odd things happened late in the fourth quarter, and then obviously that last play, not the second to last play, with Demaryius Thomas running wide open down the right sideline. Like I said on Twitter last night, that play is gonna haunt my dreams forever, because
it's haunting his, I guarantee it.
It is, yeah. I want to reach into my computer and just grab that ball and just slide it down, just not even a half an inch. I mean, it was right there. Yeah. So that's why it's devastating, because literally the game was that close to being the Broncos' victory, and we're tied 3-1 at the top of the division. The Broncos have an edge over the Chiefs early on in the season, and like I mentioned, man, the first team to win this matchup every year since 2011 goes on to win the AFC West. And so we're not going to declare that nastiness over this season just yet. Streaks are made to be broken. But what were your thoughts on the game? Yeah, we got to break it. I want to get your thoughts on the game overall. You were obviously with some other Broncos fans watching the game, watching everything unfold. What were your thoughts on how everything unfolded against the Chiefs on Monday night?
I thought we played 3 really good quarters, or 3.5, something like that. I mean, to hold Mahomes to 65 passing yards in the first half.
That was big.
And to keep them when they're outscoring their opponents in like the first quarter, like 6,000 to 5,
Yeah.
It's just some stupid, ridiculous number. They're just blowing everybody out in these first halves. And for us to come out, especially when our defense wasn't great against Baltimore last week, I thought we had an impressive game plan. I mean, holding Kelsey to 0 catches in the first half.
Nice.
That's not something we ever do, even at the peak of no-fly zone. So that was, and we don't have our best, tight end coverage guys, but however we game plan that was really good. And I felt like that's what's so tough to swallow about the end of this game is it negates like a lot of really good potential talking points that could have gone the other way had we just closed that game off. So that's tough. The defense did a really good job only to break at the end. And, I love how we almost always have a bend, don't break mentality, the Denver defense. They go and they took it to the red zone and we stopped them like 2 out of 3 times and held them to field goals in the red zone. No one does that against the Chiefs.
Right.
So that was one major thing for me. I loved how the defense played, and it's sad that we look at the end of it and that's going to be, the whole glossing it all over. And now it's just one thing instead of multiple things. That's the one thing that we're going to take away from the defensive performance is how they broke at the end, but they did a really, really good job prior to that. And then the juxtaposition at quarterback is painful. Painful. That was my number one heartbreak from last night was, man, yes. Like, let's get it out of the way. Mahomes is great. All right. Yes.
Yep.
Get it. The announcers, talked about it enough for everybody. Our Twitter feeds are all full of Mahomes. We get it. He's great. We're going to have to play against him for the next 12 years. Whoopee. This is awesome. Okay. Now, on the other side of that, it made our lack of stability at the quarterback position even worse. We did a good job stopping Mahomes, and he still was incredible. He had a down game. He kind of did come back to earth, and he was still really good. We couldn't sack him. I think somebody said he was like, covered in Crisco. It seemed like because we could not finish with that guy, man. Whether it was Vaughn, trying to get him, and then he just tosses it out with his left hand. My buddy just said, just texted me and said he's got more completions with his left hand than he does interceptions with his right.
What a stat.
Oh man.
What a stat.
So that's tough. But that was my second takeaway. And then the third major point was running the freaking rock was so good. And I don't know how much I believe necessarily went away from it because I still feel like we were doing really well. But there's certain times, even going back to the beginning of the game, when we opened it up with like 2 18-yard rushes and like we finished the series off with 3 passing attempts that don't work. It's like we should have run the ball 90% of the time on that drive until it was stopped. I would have loved to just pound the rock to the point to where that's our reason to punt. It's because they stopped us, but our rushing attack was lethal and it was almost unstoppable. We were at one point we were averaging like deep in the game what felt like over 10 yards a carry.
Yeah,
and then to close the game off and to see that we had the least amount of carries this season that we've had with the running backs. That's crazy talk. We had the lead against the Chiefs. Why did we not go heavy on the run? Why did we not unleash just a nonstop rushing attack when they weren't stopping it? They're the Chiefs defense. They're terrible. Terrible. So those are my major 3 things. Defense played really good, but now we're going to remember them as breaking in the end. Case Keenum should have made that DT throw and would have won the hearts of Broncos country. Please forgive me. And that didn't happen. That was heartbreaking. And then man, our rushing attack was good, but we should have seen more of it.
Yeah, I was doing some digging on that today because I heard a lot of people talking about that on Twitter about how the Broncos abandoned the run, and it definitely felt like that in real time. It's kind of like one of those things where, you're like, well, does it? I mean, in real time, it's kind of just like the flow of the game and this and that, and then you think about it afterward, and you look through the stats and you see the carries, and then you hear that Royce Freeman had the same number of snaps as Jared Valdir, man, who injured his knee early in the game. He was on the same amount of snaps, not the same exact snap, like the same plays. You know what I mean?
That kind of blew me
snaps
away.
each. Yeah. And then I looked at it and I was wondering, was it really something where the Broncos abandoned the run? So I went and searched back at the drive charts from this game, and I looked at the point at which people claimed that the Broncos gave up on the run, which would have been when they were up 10 points in the fourth quarter. So the Broncos go up 10 points after the Brandon McManus field goal, which was largely set up by the running game. And after that point, Kansas City has a 12-play, 75-yard drive that spans 6 minutes, 20 seconds. So they're on the field for 6:20 in the fourth quarter, nearly half of a quarter. And then the Broncos get the ball back, and this was their only possession outside of that game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. The other one started in the third quarter where they ended with the field goal. So this was the play selection. First play, run up the middle with Phillip Lindsay. Second play, short pass to Emmanuel Sanders. Third play, Keenum gets he technically took a sack, but he ran out of bounds. And then Marquette King punted the ball. So what would have been ideal on that last drive right there, where the Broncos are trying to run that 4-minute offense, where they went wrong is they didn't necessarily abandon the run. What they did is they didn't put out the A team. The A team being Janovich, Hireman.
Janovich didn't even play on those three, right?
No. And honestly, he was the best pass protector last night as well. And the Broncos had favored Booker and Lindsey for those roles, and they honestly didn't play well.
Weird. Yeah. Okay. So we know Lindsey like pulls out these miracle where he squeezes through, like he does more than he should for his size, right? But that's where I was baffled at some of the decisions. Now, the fake when they didn't run the ball on fourth down and they got the touchdown, they ended up passing it. I remember Booker was out there for that. And I was like, please don't run this to Booker on fourth down. And they didn't. They ended up doing a fake that they pulled off, and it was great. But even in that play, don't you have Royce out there? You know, like if you really want to make the defense think that we're about to pound the rock down the center, don't you have Royce out there in that situation? It doesn't seem like they were utilizing the right people at the right time. Now, I'm also someone that has not been as upset about Booker as I thought I'd be. At this point, I don't really think he's really done anything to warrant a lot of the negativity he's getting from Broncos fans. I know he played 20 snaps, but they only gave him the ball one time to run it. So that must mean a lot of the other times they trusted in the pass block. So maybe he is the most trustworthy. We didn't see Booker blow any huge blocking assignments. I mean, I haven't gone back and rewatched it for that specifically, but I don't remember anything from the first view. So I'm not as upset at them using Booker in pass blocking, but there's just certain times where you felt like why would you have Lindsey in on a goal line? Why would you have Booker in on the goal line? Like Freeman, and that toss, man, to Freeman, he turned nothing into something, because that even should have been a bad call that he made he made a move, several moves, and made some magic happen.
That's how good Freeman is. He's arguably right now, a top 5 running back in the NFL already at getting yards after contact. He's the Broncos are facing, like we talked about with Nick Kendall in the previous Knights of Den episode, which you should all go listen to. And by the way, if you don't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us and follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts. We really appreciate that. If you guys like the content that we're putting out, if you want to support the channel and really just get involved with us, we'd appreciate that. But
not only that, since the last podcast, we have gone in a new direction, and we've been unleashing some good short form content. We have a Twitter. We obviously have Twitter. We have Instagram, and we have YouTube that we're releasing short form content on. So we know not everybody can listen to the podcast. So we want to be able to meet the needs and get short form videos, 1 minute long, very digestible, bite-sized pieces. And we got, they're not really videos where you have, videos of us in the podcast. They're pictures to our audio, but they're good little snippets. And we've got it on Twitter. If you're on Instagram, and if you're on YouTube, it's all Knights of Den. So go search Knights of Den on any of those, wherever your preferred platform is to get content. We've got it for you. And we're going to be hitting Facebook pretty soon as well. So we're trying to find out where you guys, are getting your content. We're trying to meet you right where that is.
Exactly. And the videos look great, man. So awesome work. They look awesome.
I'm putting my new graphic design apps and my iPad Pro to the test, and I'm liking it so far. All the video editing and all the graphic design is all done entirely on my iPad Pro.
I love it. And we weren't paid to say that.
No,
if Apple wants to come jumping in here, we're not gonna. We'll have discussions about that. So. But back to Royce Freeman. That guy, he's so good after contact, and he's been great against stacked boxes, as we talked about with Nick Kendall on the previous episode. And that was one of the things I remember us talking, and I asked you guys what you thought would be, if the Broncos did win the game, what would be the reasons for it? And we talked about the running game. We talked about actually playing some tight defense. We talked about limiting Mahomes. We talked about getting him off his spot. I think that all of those things happened in this game, which is why it's so baffling to me to hear all these fans or to read all these tweets talking about how Vance Joseph and the coaching staff really blew this game. Like I said, sometimes it comes down to just making plays. And even
I'm most upset when in the coaching department had a little bit of Musgrave's play calling, but that's it. I'm not nearly as upset as Broncos country as at Vance Joseph. And I thought Joe Woods maybe had a game-saving scheme or whatever he did, matched up so well against the number one offense in the NFL and held them to 10 points in the first half. And again, Mahomes held Mahomes to 65 yards in the first half and Kelsey to 0 catches. They did a really good job. So yes, I'm a little irritated at Musgrave, but beyond that, I thought the coaching did a pretty good job.
I agree. And we called last week. We called for Bradley Roby to step up. And he did in a big way. I think he was arguably the best defensive player on the field for Denver in last night's. Tyreek
who wasn't?
Yeah,
Von Miller.
Yeah.
Lowest rated Pro Football Focus player in last night's game.
The lowest.
At least for us. He was our lowest rated player. And that's not something you need from your, future Hall of Fame stud pass rusher. I was begging the TV / Von Miller. Please, Von, please.
Time for a
need
turnover.
You. This is it, Von. And they were showing him and they'd cut to him like they heard me.
Yeah.
So, I had this connection, yeah, Von, you got this, Von. I'd see the eye of the tiger in him, but he was gassed, man. And
he was
doing everything he could, but he just didn't get the results.
I've never seen Von Miller give as much effort. He must have been so ticked off. I've never seen him give as much effort as he did on the play where Mahomes flipped the ball into his left hand and threw it for a first down. I haven't seen him run that fast since the 2011 scouting combine. He closed in.
Oh, he wanted it so bad. He wanted to put that name on the back of that shirt.
Yep.
He's got that shirt with all the people he sacked.
Yep.
He wanted Mahomes' name up there.
Yep.
And he will, but it wasn't last night.
Nope, it wasn't. And that was a huge bummer because it really felt like with the Broncos up 10 points, it felt like inevitability that Miller was going to get, or somebody was going to get that strip sack, or a ball was going to get tipped and picked off. Like that's what happened in 2015. Like the Broncos weren't lucky. They made those plays happen. And so you felt like with that kind of momentum, and if the offense puts you in a position like that, oh yeah, this defense is going to close this thing out. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But unfortunately, Mahomes was able to avoid I thought the Broncos put on really good pressure.
Yeah.
I felt like Bradley Chubb should have had a couple sacks in that game. Felt like Shane Ray had a sack.
Ooh, he had one. Oh, Shane Ray I'm still haunted by that moment too.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Again, I know Mahomes is good. He's really, really good. He's got that Russell Wilson snake escape, as Perna noted.
And we got Russell for 6 sacks and 11 hits.
I know.
And it it doesn't equate in my mind yet how they weren't able to take him down. It felt like prime Ben Roethlisberger combined with Aaron Rodgers after he gets thrown off his spot.
Combined with Favre, combined with just like
exactly
some stupid super hybrid. Yeah. I'm so like, yes, I wish he wasn't a Chief so I could like really sit here and appreciate this. Like my buddy was texting me about him because he's so stoked. He's his dynasty quarterback. And I'm just like, all right, bro, just cut it out for a minute. Like I can't hear anymore about how good Patrick Mahomes is like for at least a week. Because it hurts when he's your freaking rival and you're going to have to play him twice a year for the next probably 12 years at least.
Yep. It does suck to think about that. I mean, last night, I don't know what more the Broncos could have done. I mean, I know that they could have finished those plays, but let's talk about this for a second because one of the big talking points on Twitter today has been the fact of that 2nd and 30 play where the Broncos defense gave up, 24 yards in coverage. And on that play, Mahomes should have been sacked.
Yeah.
He stepped out of a collapsing pocket and somehow, some way, the coverage has to, you got to think about this. If he has to escape the pocket and make a throw on the run, what does that mean? Number one, it could mean that the pass rush got home. Number two, it could mean that the coverage held up in the first place he wanted to throw the ball was unavailable. And so if that's the case, we need to look at this a little bit more objectively than, well, Joe Woods should have called contain on that play, or he should have been playing zone on that play. The man defense had been working all game. The Broncos had gotten off routinely on 3rd and 14, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 17. It wasn't like they were giving up these 3rd down and long plays all game.
And it would have looked brilliant had we closed in and got the sack.
Right. And it was great pressure. They disguised pressure all night, and Mahomes was just able to get away. It didn't make any sense in the moment. It was frustrating. Again, it was like watching prime Ben Roethlisberger. You're just wondering, like, you got the guy draped around his ankles. How is he not falling down? And how not only is he not falling down, he's making throws downfield.
Yeah, left and right-handed.
Yeah, left and right-handed. So I'm just amazed at how well he played. I think he has a 6-touchdown game this year. That was the best game that he played last night.
Yeah, because we gave him the best. We had the best defense and the best scheme that he's faced. And he still was able to pull that out and recovered from a poor first half. He was just so cool and calm. And and it's a bummer. We got the worst quarterback situation in the AFC West, and that just depresses me.
Yeah, it's a bummer. And let's talk about that for a bit because not even after the game ended, but before the game ended, you talked about Case Keenum and your thoughts on him. So let's get your thoughts, Brandon, on Case Keenum and kind of just tell us a little bit about your feelings about him after the game last night.
I think I finally bailed off the train of faith in Keenum last night. And we talked about that before. There was one of our videos, our snippets, where I said, I haven't seen enough for him to be our franchise guy. Well, last night, I think I came to the conclusion he's just not just I haven't seen it yet. I don't think he is. And I'm willing for him to win my heart back over. I'm going to, he can win me back. He can do that. But I tweeted during that last drive and I said, write your story, Case Keenum. This is where you win the hearts of Bronco country. Show them the Mile High Magic. And he was one DT pass away from doing that. I believed. I had faith. I trusted him. And he did not come through. And he hasn't thrown a touchdown since week 1. Think about that stat. That's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild, especially when he's got a run game that's doing its job. So
every week. Yep.
Either he's not doing well or they're not giving him they're not using him right, or some combination of both. But it's not working right now as him being the guy under center that's our guy. So I don't know. I don't think it's time to call for his head and go to swag yet. I really want that to happen at some point this season, especially if he continues to play as he has. I think there may be a better way to use Case Keenum. And it may be expecting a little bit less out of him. I know we have great receivers, but he's throwing way more picks than he is touchdowns, man. And I watched the game for the quarterback position primarily. I know there's a lot of other things to appreciate about the Broncos right now, but quarterbacking is my favorite thing about football. It's my favorite. It's the reason why I think that football is the best sport. I love watching the quarterback position. And it is just a bummer to see, this type of quarterback play, to not have that leader under center that you can trust and count on. I like those games where I don't even care how you've played for 3 quarters, kind of the Tebow thing where at least you come through in the end when it matters. And that's what we need. And if you're not going to be coming through for those earlier, quarters and those earlier situations, at least come through on that DT play. At least.
Yep.
The running game carried you to that possible finish on your 0 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Yep.
They carried you. So oh, that was tough.
It was tough. And I'll play a little devil's advocate for Keenum here. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Absolutely hasn't been enough at this point to say, oh yeah, we found we're not looking forward to this 2 years ending because we're going to have to pay this guy a lot more money. We're definitely not at that point. Matter of fact, I think we're at the point, like you said, where you're kind of wondering at what point do we see Swag Kelly? It's not, like you said, it's not going to be right away, but we may if it continues like this. And so I think the biggest thing for me with Keenum last night, I'm not putting the interception on him. I think that was just a freakish play.
Yeah.
Hireman had the ball in his hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was kind of just a weird play. It wasn't like the guy was. He jumped the route. I think so you could really take that interception away and kind of just put it on the play in that final drive where it should have been absolutely picked off. The DT pass probably should have never happened. Yeah. So the DT play, that should have never even had a chance to happen because Keenum threw the ball right into the defender's hands. Yeah. So the game should have been over right there.
Yeah.
So you could just that phantom interception or that great play by the defender just kind of make up for it with that other play that should have been interception. But I think on that final drive, there were a couple plays from Keenum that I loved. The 4th and 11 that he threw to Sanders at the sideline. I watched that ball come out of his hands and I thought, oh my gosh, that's going 10 yards over his head out of bounds. And then Sanders came down with it. I don't know. I don't know if my perspective on the TV was weird or I don't know what it was, but it just looked like it was going to fly over his head and it turned out to be a really nice throw, got out of bounds. And then the next play, oh my gosh, the next play to Jeff Hireman, that was a big time throw. If we watch back the highlight of that throw, he's getting hit from behind. He delivers a perfect strike to Hireman in stride, putting the Broncos in reasonable touchdown distance. I think that there were some plays on that drive, and then obviously, he had that. He had the throw to DT. It was the read against cover 2. He made the perfect read. Everything was executed except the throw. And we saw that a couple times in the preseason. And we're just kind of thinking like, oh yeah, Keenum would love to have those back. Those overthrows won't happen when he gets more chemistry. Well, now we've had a couple games where those overthrows have happened pretty consistently. And so it's kind of causing a little bit of a reason for concern here because it now has cost the Broncos a game. And it's unfortunate. So I'm definitely not on the Keenum for franchise quarterback train.
No, definitely not.
I think he did. If he completes that pass, but that's too big of an if right now. Those are the plays like John Elway said, I think today or yesterday, he said those are the plays that really, define whether you're just a, good quarterback or one of the greats.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't even say, I think he's above average, but we don't want just an above average quarterback. We need a great quarterback. We need at least a good enough quarterback to be able to close in those situations. So this is an honest question. How many of those good things that Case did in this game and maybe in some of what you've seen so far from him in weeks 1 through 4 period, how many things that Keenum has done well for us do you think Swag wouldn't have been able to do? Like what has Keenum, and I don't know the answer. I'm not propping that up.
No, yeah.
How do you think Keenum's done like anything significant that Swag couldn't have done?
I don't know. I'd have to. I mean, it all depends on the situation. It all depends on the situation of the game. Does Swag Kelly give you the opportunity to come back in those first two games like Keenum did? I don't know. I think Kelly made those big time throws. He's got an accurate arm. He showed that, but he also showed at times in the preseason that he could, he had the occasional overthrow. He had the occasional underthrow where he threw interceptions. And so,
Not too different from what we've seen from
not
Keenum.
too different. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is like,
yeah.
if he's going to struggle and throw some picks, like, okay, well, that's what we're getting from Keenum,
Right.
like what's the difference, So
yeah, that's always been kind of my justification for, when we were waiting for Tebow for so long. We were waiting for Tebow to come in and we're like, well, Kyle Orton's costing us games. I mean, if somebody's going to cost us games, might as well be the guy who's really exciting to watch.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think with anything, the Broncos are probably like they have in the past. They're going to wait until they feel like they're, really eliminated from playoff contention, which Tebow really flipped that script. But they're going to wait until they probably feel like they're in a, elimination situation. And then maybe, Keenum gets maybe that knee injury flares up again. I mean, you just never know when that stuff's going to pop up again on the injury report. And so, I don't know. I feel like they're giving him a shot. They're definitely going to get their money's worth.
Wasn't that supposed to be the game against the terrible Kansas City Chiefs that we finally were supposed to see some touchdowns, some passing touchdowns?
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like, this was a terrible defense. This was supposed to be the bounce back game. I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, well, let's get Keenan lined up against a terrible D and let's see. But wait, that was it. Mm-hmm. That was the game. That was the one we were supposed to see. They do not have an elite secondary.
No. Nope. There were a couple of times there where they settled for those field goals. There was the play, you remember the play with Cortland Sutton where he landed out of bounds?
Yeah.
It's got to be a little bit better of a throw. Obviously, we had the missed throw to Demaryius Thomas. Those are two right there. Those are two touchdowns that are off the board that end up being the difference in the game. And they changed the course of how the game is called and how everyone plays everything. Because if Sutton's got a touchdown there, all of a sudden you're up 17-10 at halftime, and the whole everything has changed. The Chiefs don't have to go into super aggressive mode. It's just I don't know. It was tough to watch kind of those shortcomings, so to speak. I guess I don't know the way that it just fell it was so close one way or the other. It's like those 50-50 plays, and I almost resent those 50-50 plays in a way because it feels like a lot less than 50% of the time they actually end up working. Which I want to get your thoughts on this too. The hook and ladder for the final play of the game.
Yeah, that was tough. They were kind of harsh on Sutton, but that was the design play. He was trying to do what he was supposed to do and just it wasn't able to. That's tough because you kind of do want to do some more short stuff with Keenum because he's not making those deep accurate throws. I don't know, man. I don't have too many thoughts on it. By that point, I was so demoralized by the previous DT play that I'm like, okay, now it's going to be even harder. And when that was it, and then it was just a fumble, it was just I feel like that previous play prepared me for that, how terrible that one was going to be, because that was the Mile High Magic play that we missed.
Yep.
So then that next one was just like, well, they tried something, they didn't get it, but we shouldn't have even had to try that.
Right. It was tough. It's still tough to replay it in my mind and to think about it and to kind of just, I'm not dwelling on it like I was last night. Like I didn't lose any sleep over it or anything. It was just one of those things where it's just frustrating. It's frustrating to see it come that close and we have no control over it. And so it's just tough. It was tough, but sometimes that's just the way that it goes. And you get an opportunity again this week here against a team that's, they're not a very good team. The Jets aren't. They're a young team. They've got some pop when they, I don't know, when all things are clicking, but for the most part, I'd say they're not that great of a team. So Broncos got a chance, but
if we can hold the Chiefs offense like that, we should be able to hold the Jets offense. This is a must win. This is definitely a must win game. We have to recover from this 2-game loss skid. We got to start changing the story. Otherwise, it's time to start thinking, playing it's time to bring DeMarcus Walker in. Might be time to bring Swag in. It's time to start transitioning to figuring out what we have for the future, because if we can't beat the Jets and we lose 3 games in a row, we're not going far this year.
Right. Yeah, if they lose this game to the Jets, I mean, boy, I don't even want to think about it. So I'm not going to. I'm not going to think about them losing to the Jets. It's last year they beat the Jets 23-0 with a bunch of scrubs out there. So I really, gosh, I don't know. It's hard to even fathom that happening, but hard to fathom it. So
yeah, it's really time for the rest of the season that we have to become an elite rushing force. That means we need some more Freeman carries. And if they're not stopping the Lindsey Freeman combo, then the offense doesn't need to be the ones that stop it. That's the kind of the main takeaway for me of that whole game is they didn't stop our run game. Our own OC did.
Right.
That's and I think Vance Joseph was talking about, let me see, I think I have this quote here. Vance Joseph was talking about the 3 and out at the end of the game. He said, I thought the play calling was okay. Obviously, you can walk in the next day and question play calls, but it's really about getting first downs. However we get them. Throwing the ball, running the ball, it's about getting first downs. We went 3 and out, not good. We didn't burn any clock, not good versus that offense. We can look back and say, boy, we could have handled the ball. We could have handed the ball off 2 more times in that drive and made some yards and burned some clock. But that's hindsight. If you get a first down, you're not saying that today. So I think that's a good point. But especially in that situation, like, man, we really needed to run more clock off that. We really needed to run the clock off, and they weren't stopping our running game. And I get we went to it on first down, but man, we should have. I felt like a lot of times in that game, there were just situations where we decided to try to become a passing team when our offense was clicking. And they're the ones that talk about riding the hot hand. And I know that's more about which running back they're using, but how about just using the running backs in general? Vic had a point where he's like, I want them to run the ball 92 straight times for the rest of this game. Let's lose that way. It's better than losing with Keenum sacks and Keenum incompletions.
Yep.
And that may have been a really good point for some of those last drives. Maybe if we just ran the ball 100% of the time, there wouldn't have been the time for them to come back and score that last touchdown. Even after they scored, they took 4 minutes off the clock, and we right before the 3 and out drive, it was like, okay, well, they took 4 minutes off. We've got a great rushing attack. We should be able to burn a lot of time. We're fine.
Yep.
And again,
so
that is
do you think you would have felt better if the Broncos had gone 3 and out, running the ball 3 straight times, and you're like, well, so we went to the run, it didn't work, and that's just how the cookie crumbled.
Oh yeah, because you think about the opposite. If you'd gone 3 and out with incompletions and the sacks are the same thing as just pounding the rock up the middle, but you actually lose yards. So I think not only do we lose field position on the sacks, but we lost opportunities to take time off the clock. I'd rather go into 3 and out with 3 straight runs.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think I would have been fine with that as well. If you put your best on best, Janovich, Freeman.
That's the other thing. Yeah, Janovich needed to be out there. Freeman needed to be out there. We had worn that D down, man. And yes, they got 4 minutes to rest, so they were probably had caught their breaths. But man, we should have took advantage of that. I mean, Lindsey and Freeman are both famous for turning nothing into something,
right?
And many times throughout this. So why don't we have Jano out there? Why don't we have our 2 stud rookies doing what we do when Keenum hasn't shown that he can be the guy that's relied upon in the clutch?
Yeah,
I mean, yes, in weeks 1 and 2, but that seems so far away. Seems like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away that we got those. And we very well could be an 0-4 team right now if he didn't come in clutch at the end of those games. So, this is tough. Tough situation. I don't like not having a good quarterback. And that's like what it seems like our problem is right now, is that we just don't have a guy under center. We may not have the right coaching staff, but I'm not really hating on Vance Joseph. I think he's shown a lot of improvement. I'm more irritated at times in Woods and Musgrave. So we'll see how they respond, man. I thought Joe Woods responded really well to the challenge. We could have been blown out by the Chiefs. They blew everybody else out. We held that super powered offense for a while. So that was a nice little moral victory. I'm not as critical of Joe Woods as I have been in the past weeks, but man.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough breakdown at the end of the game, and we can't say that. We could say that 100 different ways. Wouldn't change what happened. Wouldn't change what it is. I mean, it was just tough. It's heartbreaking. It's hard to lose games in that specific way, where it's right there. It's literally at the tip of your finger, and so. It was brutal. It was a brutal way to lose a game, but
someone at the bar said, "I hate games like that. They're so stressful." I was like, "I love games like that. When we win, when we're the ones that pull it out, Yep.
That was about every game during that Tebow season, during the 6-game winning streak. It was about every single game like that where it was just, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen here? This could go either way, and but. Definitely didn't have the Tebow magic last night on Monday Night Football when they needed it.
That was one of my tweets, man. He doesn't have the magic, man. Mm-hmm. He did in that Minnesota game, but we needed it. We needed it. The storyline should have been Mahomes humbled and takes his first loss. And instead, I was just sick watching Kareem Hunt and Mahomes just smiling at each other, getting post-game interviewed, and I made them at the bar. I made them turn it back to the music. I was like, "Please turn the sound back on, or please turn this game off. Get the jukebox playing." Someone put a country music song on, and it sounded better. Like that's that's a lot coming from me. I was happy to hear country, which is the first time I've ever said that in my entire life.
Just put on the country music right now. Anything.
Jeez, I need to hear about them drinking beer with their horses right now. Just get Patrick Mahomes' post-game victory speech off.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was brutal, and it seemed the really tough part about it was it really felt like, gosh, man. I mean, would you agree? It really just felt like it felt like the ESPN and everything. It felt like they wanted that outcome of the game.
They did. Of course they did.
Really wanted Mahomes to come through, make some big plays. I don't know.
Yep. And they got it.
They got it. They got what they wanted.
That's all they were talking about during the game. That's all they're talking about after the game. And that's what another painful thing is. We were so underestimated. And that should have been the story. Is Broncos came, surprised everybody, shocked the world on Monday Night Football, and beat the high-powered Kansas City offense and shut Mahomes down and delivered him his first career loss. Come on.
Oh,
so close. One play to DT, whose jersey I was wearing. Me and my buddy that was the cook at the bar that I was at was they need to play to DT. They need to play to DT at the whole fourth quarter. And we almost got it. All the stars almost aligned. Until they didn't.
It's hard to even think about it. It's still hard to think about. Man. Boy. Well, was there what else stood out to you in this game? Was there anything in specific that really stood out, good or bad? I mean, it's a lot of talking about the loss is focusing on the negative that happened, but there was a lot of good that happened in this game. So, is there anything that stood out to you, good or bad?
I mean, I think I've covered it. As far as I thought we did a really good job defensively for 3 quarters. We shouldn't have been able to hang in there that much with Mahomes. They schemed really well. The running game was so beautiful. Beautiful. Janovich was the unsung hero. I was saying that in the game. I know I'm not the only one, but I was yelling it out at the bar like Janovich is the unsung hero of this freaking game. Look at that Janet block. Look at that Janet block. And then boom, he gets that catch, huge catch, which we need. It looking like we might need to use Jano in some of the ways we were using the tight ends I love our rushing attack, and now it's time that we just need to become that team.
Yeah.
Couple good Sutton catches. I'm still looking for his first career touchdown. Hireman did good. There's a couple moments where you could kind of tell that we're missing Jake Butt. But man,
Yeah.
the defense surprised me. They did a good job, and then the rushing attack was great. And that's about it, man. Chubb looked good on a couple of near plays. Shane Ray almost got that sack. I really needed we have the best pass rush in the NFL. There's no reason why we shouldn't have been able to pull something out there.
Yeah, they've been getting just close. They're these almost sacks that they're so frustrating because they're getting pressures on. I mean, they were getting pressure on Mahomes. They had 14 hurries, 8 hits, but only they were credited for 2 sacks, but it was really one combined sack. So 14 hurries on Mahomes. They got him. They made him either try to make something out of nothing 14 times, or they got him off his spot 14 times, or they made him throw too quick. So that's a big deal. They did.
No lack of trying. And I'm not like, even I'm upset at Vaughn for not getting the results, but I'm not upset at Vaughn for not trying. He tried. He was gassed. He gave his all, man. You just really needed him to just find a way to pull it off. And I know that's easier said than done for us as couch critics, but man, they did try. You can't be upset that they didn't put the pressure on Mahomes.
Yep. Agreed. And I thought, so we had a couple individual players step up a little bit more in this game. I thought felt like Isaac Yiadom showed some improvement. He only had 5 defensive snaps, but when he was out there, he wasn't targeted. He played some. I just didn't see any
negative moments with him. Yeah,
yeah, right. That's exactly what we're looking for at this point. I thought Chris Harris Jr. He deserves a little bit of credit for what he did against Travis Kelce. I saw him covering Travis Kelce a couple times in the first half, probably in the second half as well. So he deserves some credit for that. I thought the secondary overall, Pac-Man Jones showed up and made some big plays. He had that tackle for loss in space against Tyreek Hill. You can probably count on one hand the amount of guys who have been able to do that against Hill. So for big 35-year-old Pac-Man Jones, that was a great play, and I was excited about that. Offensively, I was really pleased with Billy Turner coming in, filling in for Jared Valdir for just another time of doing it. He came in when Valdir had the concussion. He came in last night. He played well when he was given first team reps in the preseason, which I was heavily criticized for saying because he gave up that one sack on like a 3rd and a mile.
Oh, you got like a GIF breakdown.
Oh yeah,
from somebody.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, it was like, this is picture evidence.
I'm surprised he didn't pull out a freaking chalkboard or an iPad and an Apple Pencil and chart it up for you.
Yeah, it should have been charted up. I think the offensive line overall did a good job of adjusting last night when they gave up 4 sacks in the first, or they gave up 3 sacks in the first half, and then just the one that the Chiefs were credited for in the second half was on that 3-and-out drive where Keenum ran out of bounds. So,
ooh, that was tough too.
I
forgot about that play till just now. That was especially on 3rd down. It's elite. Just take a shot. Take a shot, man. Take a freaking shot. Throw the ball down. I would rather a deep interception than you running out of bounds, getting tackled out of bounds on 3rd down. Like, take a shot, man. Take a shot.
Yeah, he could have thrown it further downfield than Marquette King punted it. I mean,
that's okay. Punt. Even talk about that. Let's talk about that real quick. What the heck is up with Marquette King, man?
I mean, I don't get it. It feels like everything, like you said earlier, the stars, it felt like they were aligning for him when, he came into Denver. You're punting in the Mile High Air. He had such a great average with the Raiders in Denver. I mean, he did a great job while he was
be the first punter in history to be worse in our air.
Yeah. Seriously.
What is going on, man? There are so many times where it's like, okay, this is the punt we really need. We really need some good field position. 36 yards. What just happened? Let's just throw a deep interception.
Yeah. Yep. Just throw it. Just throw it out there.
Throw it to free
Might as
safety.
well.
You're throwing it for. You're getting it further than Marquette's punting, man. So I don't know. That's a bummer. I was hopeful that we had locked down a good punter, for a while, and it's looking like whoever we brought to the practice squad might need to take his spot.
Right.
Well, I never thought I'd say that this year.
Squad. No, I didn't either. I thought King was going to be kind of an unsung hero for this Broncos team. I thought he was going to help flip field position, pin offenses deep, really give the Broncos an advantage defensively. It's kind of been the opposite so far. I mean, even on the punts that he had inside the 20 last night, felt like he didn't quite put it where he wanted to. He punted the first one to Tyreek Hill, who had a big return. And so it was just not good in general. And everybody else on the Broncos special teams has been excellent so far this year.
He's making our special teams look like they're not great, which is interesting. Like there's been some games afterwards where I'm like, at least the special teams did good, and everyone points to, well, not Marquette King. But that's a bummer because he's single-handedly dragging that away from like being an A grade every game. Talking McManus ain't missing. And our kick returners are doing a pretty decent job, and our coverage, on special teams has been awesome. So it's like they would be A+ grades if it weren't for Marquette King balancing that out with Fs like almost every game.
Yeah, it's been brutal. And Vance Joseph has acknowledged that he's got to be better. And so
performance-based league, he said.
Yeah.
So
it wouldn't surprise me if he got cut.
He might need to, and in the meantime, he better, he might need to step away from making music and music videos and focus on punting,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. Would be nice.
Not saying he needs to be one thing, but
right.
I just don't know. There seems like he seems off.
He does.
And I think, talk about recalibrating. I think Marquette King needs to recalibrate. He needs to win. I think maybe, if they didn't come out this today or tomorrow and cut him, I think that we need to give him another week, and he needs to take advantage of that. And we need some coffin corner punts. We need him to have a solid game where we go, okay, we need more of this Marquette King.
Yep. Completely agreed. So that was another area last night that played into the overall outcome of the game. Obviously, there was the big phantom delay of game that was never called.
Yeah.
And that was a huge bummer because that turned into one of the biggest plays of the night for the Chiefs. So it was 3rd and 7. The clock very clearly hit 0 for about a second and a half, maybe 2. I mean, it felt like 5 seconds it stood on 0 until the play, the ball was snapped. But then Patrick Mahomes once again got off his spot, found a tight end deep down field, and I honestly thought that tight end was going to just walk right into the end zone, but he fell down near the sideline. So it was a huge bummer, a huge miss by the officiating crew, and they even explained to the Broncos players in the moment that they just didn't see it. Yeah. And that's inexcusable.
But there's somebody whose job that is.
Yeah, and you can see in the picture the guy's looking at the clock. I mean, you can see it in the picture that's going around Twitter right now. I mean, he's looking right at it. He's looking right at the clock. It says 0, and I understand that they give it like
so helpful.
Yeah, it would have been huge. It would have put him in 3rd and 12. Not that the same exact play couldn't have happened on 3rd and 12, but I mean, I'll take my chances. Yeah. I'll take my chances getting another deflating penalty because Kansas City had a number of them that pinned them deep in that game. Kansas City, by the way, there's a lot of people out there that are criticizing the Broncos for being undisciplined. Kansas City had a really sloppy game last night in terms of penalties. And obviously the Broncos, faithful, the 76,000 plus in the stands have a big, part in that, in causing the false starts. But there were a number of holding penalties, a couple of personal foul, or at least one personal foul that I can recall. And so it was an undisciplined game, and they still found a way to win and overcome, just because Patrick Mahomes, again, we can't overstate it. And we talked about it on the last podcast. I said that, this guy's good. He's a good player. He's a really good player. And I want the Broncos to be able to beat those really good players. And they almost did. So it didn't come down to, well, if the if the delay of game had been called, I think that we would have had
That's
some.
an easy
Yeah,
thing to say, but let's not go there. Let's
no.
not. It's just like even the yeah, the DT play that we could have won in that play. There was a lot of things. There's a whole concoction of stuff
Hmm.
where we played really good. We didn't do some things well. There's a lot to learn from it. Would have been nice to have that play. Would have been nice to have that penalty. But ultimately, I feel like we need to learn a lot from this. There's a lot of different things to learn rather than case overthrew it. Or refs need
Yep.
to call better. I think the number one takeaway that we need to have coming out of this is strictly what kind of offensive identity do we have? Because I think somebody tweeted it. I don't remember who it was. We found our offensive identity last night. Doesn't it seem like that? Doesn't it seem like we at times we're kind of like the team we're supposed to be, running the ball and doing that? So it's like, I think that's we need the number one takeaway leaving and going into the future is we're a rushing team, man. Let's
Yep.
find a way to do that at the right times, because we definitely did not balance. We weren't a very balanced offense, and we need to. I don't know, or maybe we're too balanced. Maybe we need to adjust over the
It's
gauge
like,
to
yeah, that's
heavier
a good
running.
point. I think there's something to be said about that. What you said, maybe being too balanced. It's almost like the Broncos are trying to force a bit of
Yeah,
balance,
it
you
does feel
know?
that way. You're absolutely right.
And so there's something to be said about that of just like, well, we're playing the tendencies. We're trying to get first downs. We're not worried about how we get them. We're trying to just get them. Well, why not play to your strengths a little bit more? I mean, Royce Freeman having 8 touches. I'm gonna pull up his season stats really quick because I want to know exactly how many yards this guy has this year and how many touches he has. It's getting to the point of absurdity that he's not getting the ball 20 times a game. And I understand that Philip Lindsay deserves touches as well, but give both guys 20 touches. He's got 44
Yeah,
attempts in 4 games. That's
I want to
11
lose
per
that way.
game.
I'd rather
Well,
lose that way.
yeah,
I'd rather lose because we tried too much with Lindsay and Freeman. And I know that's easy to say. It's
yep.
easy to say. But I mean, man, that seems to be the one thing that's really working with our team. And I think if we can become a team that's just smashing on the run and destroying, for 65 to 70% of the game, how much easier is it going to be to pass when we need to?
Exactly. Exactly. And to your point about the success of the running game, 1 out of every 4 Royce Freeman carries gone for a first down. 1 out of every 4.
Wow.
And for Philip Lindsay, so
Four
Philip,
out of our first 5 rushes went for first downs last night. I do remember that. 4 out
yeah,
of our first 5 rushes went for first downs.
yep, they're both averaging at least 5 yards a carry. Philip Lindsay's at 5.9, Freeman's at 5. They have a combined 29 first downs on 99 rushes, or on
Wow.
89 rushes, excuse me.
Wow. Even better.
So yeah, they're combined. They're at a 1 out of 4 ratio of first downs per run.
Mm.
And so I mean, those guys are just ripping it. And that is something to be excited about. That's something to build on. It's something
Yeah.
that they can really build on, I think. And we saw too, how big of an impact is it that Philip Lindsay didn't get to play the entire second half against Baltimore?
Yep.
I mean, that was a
Yep.
huge loss.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge loss. I want to see the Broncos get Lindsay more involved in the passing game. Obviously, the first touchdown of the season, man, was a
Yeah.
Philip Lindsay. I mean, just a quick throw to him, and he just did the rest.
Well,
Why
his
have we not
first
seen
his
that?
first touchdown in the preseason was that swag.
It
Was that
was.
swag to Lindsay?
Yeah.
I don't know what that route's called, but yeah, that was awesome. So I think there's definitely he needs to be somebody that we're using in that
Hmm.
situation and in that way. Using that speed. There
Yeah.
if we get him open on a route, he's going to be matched up against the linebacker most of the time.
Yep. And why are we not doing that? He has 5 receptions in 4 games, and one of them was a 29-yard touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, what do
So,
I know? I mean, the only thing I do is I call plays on Madden. That's my closest experience to this. I never really played football,
yeah.
but I mean, when a lot of Bronco country is saying the same thing, and we've had some great guests on the show, and I follow them on Twitter, and a lot of them are doing breakdowns and they're saying the same thing. So that's where it's like, I kind of question myself where I'm like, yeah, I do that in Madden, but does that mean anything? But then
Right.
bam, the analysts are like, saying similar things, obviously in better ways than I am. But
Mhm.
I think
No,
there's
I
something
think
about that we're all kind of in harmony on that note. And
yeah.
I don't understand what's going on in the offense. I'm kind of been trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it does seem like whatever frequency they need to be tapped in, they're not tapped into.
Mm-hmm. Not yet. Yep. And it is still early in the season, but the Broncos are already in a 2-game hole in the AFC West, and they've lost to the Chiefs. So it's kind of like they're in a 2.5-game hole. It doesn't feel good right now. But somebody said this to me. I think it was my one of the writers at Predominantly Orange. I think it was Brad James, who messaged me and said, you know what, the Broncos, they might not be a division champ, but they could be a wild card team.
I think that's going to be our story. Is if we have enough pieces. We got enough things going. When they do go right, they go right in a good way. I think that Chiefs are taking this division, man. The next time we play them, they're going to be in KC. If we couldn't beat them in Denver, and couldn't hold on in Denver, it's going to be tough to win in KC. That's another very, very, very tough place to play.
Yeah.
So Chiefs are probably winning this division. We can come in the wild card and shock the world, playing some tough football, running the ball, and playing good defense. I mean, especially we could have Cravens back for the playoffs,
Man, I'm excited for that.
If we can get a lot of this stuff figured out and get a lot of these wrinkles out and make the freaking wild card, we're going to be like the Giants those years where they just climbed their way through every week from the wild card spot, from away game to away game to away game to away game, and taking it. I think we can do it, man.
Do you think speaking of the Giants, do you think there's a huge separation? This might sound like a dumb question after I ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think there's a huge separation in like terms of the talent gap of Eli Manning and Case Keenum? Like I'm talking a big separation as far as like Eli elevates his team, Keenum holds his team back type of a separation.
I don't know, man. I don't want either of them as my quarterback. I've never been a big Eli fan.
No.
I don't know. I think they're about 3 years past when they should have probably switched and gotten a new quarterback. So yep. I don't see a huge difference. Neither one of those guys. I think Keenum brings a little bit more fire, but I also think he doesn't have necessarily maybe the arm that Eli does. I'd probably still rather have Keenum than Eli, which I don't think I think I'm probably in the minority there, but that's just because I like the personality of Case more than I like the personality of Eli. And that ends up getting some positive points for me. I'm more of a, sentimental personality storyline kind of person. And Eli just bores me.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway,
I agree with that. And I like the idea of the Broncos being a wild card team, mainly because it would mean that they are, a playoff team. But I would love to see what kind of noise they could make. The AFC is just not very good.
No.
The AFC is, a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say it's bad. And I would love to see a third, because if the Chiefs do win that game in Kansas City, you're going to get a third matchup against KC. It's going to be hard to beat the same team 3 times in a season. And so it's hard for anybody to do. I think the Broncos did it.
Yeah, but they're playoff choke artists, so
they are. They lose to the Titans at home.
We'll see if Mahomes can change that storyline. But yeah.
I think that it would be interesting to see Denver as a wild card team. I don't think they're that bad. I really do think that they're a team that can make some noise because of their defense, because of the pass rush. When you get into the playoffs, if you've got a running game and a pass rush, I mean, you can do things. Your quarterback just has to not make mistakes. And so far, Case Keenum has proven that he is in fact a mistake maker.
We've got a better running game and a better O-line than we did in 2015.
Yes.
And I think we have a better wide receiver core. I think the jury is very much out on whether we have a better quarterback than Peyton at his worst in that year versus what we have this year. I don't necessarily think Keenum it doesn't look at this point like Keenum's a huge upgrade over Simeon, which is it makes me want to just pause this broadcast and puke. But it doesn't seem like quarterback is an upgrade, but I think our rushing game is a huge upgrade. I love CJ Anderson, but that was about it. And then Our receivers, the depth of our receiver core, I think, is better. I don't necessarily think our tight ends are better. But we have a defense that I think can. We may not have the secondary that we had in 2015, but I think Cravens is going to help us at least get a little bit closer to what the no-fly zone is supposed to be. So I think that if we can land that wild card spot, we may not have to beat KC. I think KC is going to lose to somebody else.
Yep.
Hopefully this is one of our time travel clips in the future. We go back to this.
Yeah.
And we called it, Broncos make the wild card. Not looking forward to having to play a third time in KC after we probably lost to them twice in the regular season. And then some other team comes in and punches them in the throat and they're perpetual playoff chokers. So they choke again in the playoffs and we beat somebody else to get there. So that's what I'm hoping is the prediction for the season.
Yeah, I would love it. I would absolutely love if we're doing a time travelers post talking about how back after that, oh man, just that
what's up,
tough
future?
Chiefs game. Yeah, what's up, future? Holla. That tough Chiefs game. I mean, we're looking back. We're like, oh, we got to go find that clip. I remember exactly what episode it was because it was right after we lost that tough game to the Chiefs. So
yep.
It's
I think I'm pretty calibrated right now to like someone who's saying 8-8 looks like a pipe dream. I don't think 8-8 looks like a pipe dream. I think 8-8 now is what we're going for. And I mean, especially as a 2-2 team, that's pretty easy to say. I don't think we have a super tough schedule.
Right.
I think 8-8 is very feasible. I don't want an 8-8. And you heard me, I was an 11-5 guy. That was my prediction going in. So I'm now going down to 8-8 as far as what I expect, but I think 8-8 is very possible, and I'm hoping they do a little bit better than that and make the wild card.
Yep. I would love it. I would love to see them fight back, get 9 or 10 wins, make the playoffs. Just make the playoffs. I don't care how they do it. If it takes 8 wins to get in, great. If it takes 9, do it. Just find a way to do it. I think that they've got a couple games on their schedule right now that look like really tough, just matchups in general where they almost have to play perfect games in order to win.
Yeah.
But when you get to the playoffs, like we've said a million times before, anything can happen. Anything can happen in that situation. It's not always about the matchups in football like it is in other sports, because in other sports, you get the series to even things out. In football, it's one game. I hate even saying any given Sunday. That's my least favorite football cliche, because it's not just any given Sunday. I mean,
great movie though.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. But I mean, it's one of those situations where you get into the playoffs and you take all things off the table. I mean, we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs losing at home to the Tennessee Titans. I mean, how did the Titans even get into the playoffs last year? You know what I'm saying? Like they used Marcus Mariota and Matt Castle, one of their quarterbacks at one point last year. I mean, my goodness. So it doesn't make any sense to me that type of a thing could or would happen, but it did happen. And then the Titans had a chance to go and make noise in New England, which they didn't, but still, the fact remains. And so I'm interested to see how this Broncos team responds over the long haul of the season, because last year it wasn't week 4. They won in week 4 last year. They beat the Oakland Raiders at home in kind of a weird, like, defensive, ugly game. But this year they lost in week 4, and then after week 4 it kind of went into a tailspin last season. They lost 8 straight games. Let's
stop the let's plug up the hemorrhage, man. This has got to stop at the Jets.
Yep.
This has got to stop. We got to come out and make a statement, and I need a huge game from Freeman and Lindsey combined.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's figure out our identity. Let's learn from this as far as what kind of a team we need to be this year. How do we use Keenum? Maybe less, but in the right way. Maybe less is more. Maybe we found out that we can't. Maybe even how the Vikings were using him, like we've talked about before, is a lot of the short plays and things like that. He wasn't coming out and balling. And yeah, there's a few like the Minneapolis Miracle. Some of those plays where he did take some longer shots, but maybe we just need to figure out a less is more kind of way to use him and be more of that running team and stop trying to make happen what's not there. I
Yeah.
know we got the wide receivers for the passing game, but we may not have the quarterback, so let's adapt, let's evolve, let's pull the best, football that we can out of this squad. And at this point, let's try to do the best we can, and we might be shooting for a wild card. If we're going to be chasing the Chiefs for the rest of the season, it's looking like that's going to be the case. I'm okay with that. Let's go win a wild card spot, and then let's play some battle tested attrition football.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I would be excited for it. I just love when the Broncos are playing postseason football. It doesn't matter what the odds are. I mean, we saw the Steelers game from the 2011 season, man. I mean, anything can happen. So,
yep.
Well, I feel good about at least just having talked it out. It's kind of like, when you have a big incident and things didn't go your way, and you got to talk it out, and you're all good in the end with your boys. You kind of had a little meltdown there, but
yeah,
it's all good. I mean, there's nothing that they could do that's unforgivable, So
it's like we talked about with the whole Browns thing, though. There's some good things happening, and that's where I kind of came into this pod a bit more calibrated. I had to get it out this morning, and then I took a nap prior to the pod, and I felt like I was in a good headspace where it's like, what? We did play 3 good quarters of football. There's some good things to take away. We got an awesome duo of running backs. Sutton looked really good despite still not getting that first, career touchdown. There's some improvement on the D. They look like they're not going to be terrible. There's some shades of the essence of the no-fly zone that was there. Harris played some really good football. We were able to stop Kelsey. We game planned pretty well. There was some good stuff, and that's where it's like, yes, let's put that in a box. All the negative things that we're upset about, and it's true, and it happened. Let's put it in a box. Let's put it away. Let's advance forward with this other things, with the silver linings that we're able to find in this game, and let's become a better football team.
Amen. Amen to that. Well said. Well said. Well,
and light that box on fire, because
light it on fire.
And it includes all the Patrick Mahomes praise, which I kind of want to I almost want to take a break from Twitter for several days, because Patrick Mahomes is like my whole feed, and it's just nauseating.
Yeah.
But I won't. I'll be there for you, Bronco Country. We're going to get through this together.
We are. We are going to get through this together. We're going to have fun with this together. I'm not ready to start talking. I always love talking about the NFL draft, but I'm not ready to start talking about it in relation to the Broncos. So let's continue on this season. I actually won't be able to watch this weekend's game live, which sucks. But
I'll be there.
Brandon will be there. I'll be keeping tabs.
I'm running the Knights of Den account. So, if I'm ever retweeting stuff that Sayre's saying, it's not Sayre retweeting himself, just so you guys know. Yeah. Sayre already has a football account, and this is kind of my football account, so that I don't. That's what it started as initially, and now we've kind of just carried it over to being that, where I have a lot more movie and TV people that don't like football. So that's what my other account is for. Is I try to keep it from on Sundays. I don't want to just be blasting my timeline with football, but I'm doing it on the Knights of Den, man. I'm liking, I'm retweeting, I'm engaging. Trying to be funny. I don't know how many of you caught my new segment of the hashtag super deep analysis, which is obviously not super deep analysis. It's just skimming the surface of the most obvious general things that everybody knows, and trying to just put a little comedic edge on it, because I'm not the guy that's the super deep analytical person as far as football goes. That's not something that I'm as qualified for as like Sayre or Nick Kendall, our most recent, or Jeffrey that we've had on the pod. So I'm trying to, play my angle of not being the super deep guy with a funny segment where it's like, here's the super deep Mariana Trench Fibonacci sequence of analysis. So anyway, we'll be there for you guys. Keep engaging with the content. Somebody called me out on a spelling error. I liked that. I apologize. I was slightly inebriated and very emotional at the end of that game. So I apologize, but I also appreciated the accountability. So stick with us. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Share your thoughts with us. Engage with the post. We have had some awesome awesome engagements so far with our new short form content. I think the Case Keenum video that we did the first day had like 1,000 views.
Wow.
You know, we've gone from 15 followers at the beginning of September to 100 and I think almost 40 now. So I mean, that's not crazy big, you know. We haven't exactly gone viral, but we're doing pretty well, and especially for the 100 followers that we have, in comparison to a lot of the other accounts, we're actually getting some really good engagements. My phone's letting me know that somebody engaged with Knights of Den just about probably once a minute, it seems like. So thank you guys for engaging. Share the content if you like it. Let that be organic. We don't want you, hey, retweet, you know, but if it's something you like, share it. You know, if it's something you kind of like, then like it, you know, and let us know. Engage with the content on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you're at. We want to be there. We'll be there on Facebook soon. Go follow us on Instagram if that's your preferred platform. You know, if you want to see those little 1-minute Bronco videos on your feed, so you're seeing a little bit less of your ex-girlfriend's kids, go for it.
That's a great. That's just a great. That is great.
I'm trying to fill my Instagram up with graphic designers, and then I'm just seeing a lot less of my ex-girlfriend's families.
Yeah, there you go. That's a win-win. That is a win-win.
Well, thank you, Broncos country. And unless you have anything else, Sayre.
No, absolutely. By all means, let's sign it off tonight and move on to the next game.
We appreciate you sticking with us. We appreciate your engagements. We're so thankful to be going on this journey with you guys. There's reason to be positive. There's reason to hope. It isn't all, you know, orange colored. Everything's great. We're not going undefeated anymore. We're not going 19-0. We're getting calibrated, but hey, get calibrated with us. We're going to talk about the things that are bummers, and we're going to talk about the reasons that you should be optimistic and that you should be happy. We're going to be very even killed on the podcast. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have some fun. You know, let's enjoy this season as much as we possibly can together. And we're in that journey together. We're not super pessimistic here. We're trying to be optimistic. You know, it's a tough world out there. There's enough tragedy and enough negativity going around. You know, we're trying to be that refreshing departure from all that. So thanks for your engagements. Thanks for everything. We love you. Thanks for coming on the Knights of Den. Thanks for plugging the podcast. Thanks for doing everything and anything and just being here with us. This is Brandon Keckler and Sayre Bedinger. And as always, God bless and go Broncos.